Welcome to the Scared But Not Damaged podcast, a podcast that supports, empowers, and inspires women that have experienced abuse or experiencing emotional trauma or pain. This podcast will challenge you to push against the tides and rewrite your story. On this podcast, I will be sharing some of the principles of Scared But Not Damaged, a life that has gone through adversity and abuse and has come out strong in spite of life's challenges. Despite the scars, your worth and value still remain intact and undamaged. Each week, we will discuss topics like what is abuse? What are the red flags that you are in an abusive relationship or marriage? I am your host, Naomi.
Hello everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome back to Scared But Not Damaged podcast. Episode 2. Yay! We are on the second episode today. Yeah, I'm so excited to be doing the second episode with you guys. Today we're going to be discussing on what is abuse and what are the different types of abuse. Yes, a lot of people don't know what abuse means in totality. They only know the violence, the physical abuse. That's one form of abuse, and that is what a lot of people know, physical abuse. But I'm just going to break it down so that we know what abuse is, so that when we see abuse, we can spot it and know what to do. So I remain your host again, Undaunted Anne. So let's go. I'll first of all define what abuse is. Abuse, domestic abuse, can be defined as any incident of controlling, coercive, or threatening behavior, violence or abuse between those aged 16 or over, or who have been intimate partners or family members, regardless of their gender or sexuality. Family members can be defined as a mother, father, son, daughter, brother, sister, grandparents, directly related or in-laws or step-families, aunts, uncles, cousin, etc. This is not an exhaustive list. A definition by Women's Aid UK defined domestic abuse as a gender-based violence directed against women because she is a woman. However, some men are victims of domestic violence. Yes, some men are victims of domestic violence. You might be shocked, but that's true. But the majority of the victims are women and majority of the perpetrators are men. Men as the perpetrators are the people that inflict the abuse on the women or on the men. This crime occurs amongst people of all backgrounds and ages, although mostly committed by men against women. Victims can also be male, and abuse can happen within same-sex relationship. Yeah, gay, lesbian community, abuse happens there. So here you go. Domestic abuse does not always have to be physical to be prosecuted, meaning emotional abuse, financial, whatsoever form of abuse. Sometimes victims may not even be aware it was happening. When I was in an abusive relationship, I didn't know it was abuse because nobody beat me. It was not physical, but mentally, financial, every other thing was part of it. So today we're going to dive into the different types of abuse, so we'll be well informed. Okay. Domestic abuse covers a range of different types of abuse, including psychological, physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, and emotional abuse. There are 5: psychological, physical, sexual abuse, financial abuse, and emotional abuse. Domestic violence or abuse is rarely a one-off. It is rarely a one-off event or incident. It is the cumulative and interlinked types of abuse that have a particularly damaging effect on the victims. Like I've said in snippets and other part of my podcast, the devastating effects of abuse, domestic abuse, on its victim is unexplainable. You cannot fathom it. The trauma that goes with it is beyond this world. The victims take years and years to recover from it. So abuse can be subtle, but it's the victim that knows the impact. So that when people tell you they're going through abuse, don't undermine it. Don't water it down. Listen to them and get them help, because most of them are living in fear. And fear is a factor you don't see. Some people brave it when they're outside, but some people cry for help. And if you're not empathic, you're not listening. You're listening, but you could hear them, but you're not listening. Or you're listening, but you're not hearing them. Yeah, that way you can help. But as we go further deep into different episodes, you know the triggers. And when you see abuse and the signs, then you will be able to help yourself, seek for help, or be able to speak up. And some people can't speak up because that's what abuse does to you. It kills your self-esteem. It builds and breeds fear that over so many years you've lived with that fear and it has become your norm. But when you're not going through abuse, you don't understand it when someone else tells you. Except you're in that, in that frame of mind. But if you've not gone through it, you don't understand. It's like a slow killer. And sometimes it's very fast. You never know when it comes. So if you spot abuse, please try and seek help and send help and signpost people for help. Who can face abuse? Men, women, children are all the victims of domestic violence. Domestic violence occurs amongst people of all ethnicity, sexuality, or beliefs and socioeconomic backgrounds. So you don't have to be poor to be facing domestic violence. There are doctors, psychologists, professionals, bankers that are victims of domestic abuse, and some of them are perpetrators of domestic abuse as well. So it's vice versa. I'll be looking at what controlling and coercive behavior is. Coercive and controlling behavior is one of the tactics or the methods perpetrators use against their victims during abuse. It's a form whereby you can describe it as a behavior that occurs within a current or a former intimate or family relationship, which causes someone to fear that violence will be used against them. It's a pattern of intimidation, degradation, isolation. Let me stop here and explain. When the person you're living with could be a partner, it could be a carer, someone taking care of another person, and that person keeps inflicting you with intimidating you, threatening you, degrading you, make you feel like nothing, then isolates you from people, from friends and family, and controls you with the use of threat, physical or sexual violence. That's one of the ways and tools the perpetrators use against their victims of domestic abuse. Like I said, other areas too could be psychological or emotional, financial, economic abuse, then harassment, stalking. Those are forms of abuse, online and digital abuse. Wow. I would say if you are in different parts of the world, I don't know what part of the world you're in. If you're in the UK, you ring 999. If you are in danger, or for non-emergency inquiries, ring 101. Domestic abuse is a crime and should be reported to the police. Make sure you speak out and seek help. Reasons why a lot of people don't speak out because of fear of starting all over again. True. But you're not alone. A lot of people have gone through this, but there is help for victims of domestic abuse. Once you speak out, then you can find help and reach out. You can reach out to me if you are experiencing domestic abuse, and you'll be signposted for support and to get help. Don't be afraid. The life you're living in fear will be a lot better. You're better off being away from that toxic environment, because health issues will be things that you can work on, because while you're in that toxic environment, you could die there. Some abuse could be subtle, especially the emotional and psychological ones. They're very subtle. A lot of people don't know it's happening. Even you that is happening to, there's something happening, but you can't explain it. Maybe because the person doesn't hit you, you don't know it's abuse. But it is all abuse. Anyone that makes you feel below, that strips you of your human right, that is abuse. Someone that talks less to you, that makes you feel like nobody. Someone that accuses you when you've done nothing. Those are subtle signs of abuse. I'd like to wrap it up here today. And I'd like you to ponder on those factors and things that are pointed out to you today. And if you have questions, you can go to Instagram page at Scared But Not Damaged and you can DM me there, and I would appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.
Okay. Thanks for joining us this week on the Scared But Not Damaged podcast. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Scared But Not Damaged so you don't miss a show. Kindly subscribe to the show so you know when new episodes are released, and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you amazing episodes. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.